Hello and welcome back. Today, if you're listening to this, it is March the 10th, also known as Mario Day by Nintendo and weirdos like me. I guess because the MAR of March, in addition to the 1-0, look like Mario. So they've been celebrating this kind of holiday for about, I don't know, like 8, 9, 10 years now? It's been a little bit of time. They do have some things that are on sale from the Switch, but I don't really want to talk about that because that just dates this entire podcast. You can't go back and listen to it because it's like, well, those sales are long gone, buddy. So instead, I figured what I would just talk about is some of my favorite memories of playing the Mario games to celebrate March the 10th, or Mario Day. So the first thing I want to talk about is honestly the first video game that I ever owned, which was Super Mario 64. I got the game for Christmas back in 1996 when I was living in Louisville, Kentucky. Uh, Later on, I will tell the entire story of that whole launch window of uh, of getting Super Mario 64 and the N64 as a console. That'll probably be a Christmas video coming up, so stay tuned to that. But I did just want to kind of talk about, you know, my experience with Super Mario 64, which some consider to be still the greatest game of all time, and it's very dated, but it's tough to debate that it's not. It is fantastic. I can very clearly remember getting it and then just playing it constantly. Back then, at least where I was living at the time, Nintendo 64 games were $70 a piece, and that was in 1996. That's not today's money. Adjusted for inflation, it's got to be like what, like over $120 or something like that for one game if you were to adjust for inflation. So they were not cheap. So you were going to Blockbuster to rent things. You only had them for a couple of days, and then you had to take them back. But I permanently owned Mario 64 and played it constantly. Actually, my dad and I played quite a bit of that, which I always thought was really kind of sweet because at the time, my cousins had a Super Nintendo and eventually had a PlayStation. They always sort of had the hot new console at the time. And their parents never really played with them. They just kind of, here's the game console, shut up and go sit in the corner and play it. That was kind of the attitude, right? That was their thing. The parents never jumped on the console, at least that I saw. And so it was really interesting for me that my dad and I kind of shared the first save file of Mario 64. And whenever I wanted to play it by myself, I started the second save file, and that's where I kind of did all of my stuff. But he and I played it off and on, and this is pre-internet, or at least we didn't have the internet, and so there was no looking up guides and all of this kind of stuff. And I remember we played it for about 2 to 3 months, and we kind of started getting kind of stuck. We didn't really know where to go. We didn't know what stars to get next, and we were kind of locked out of that third. I think it was the third floor, right? Because you unlock the first one, and then you go downstairs to the basement, and then you go up the stairs, and then beyond that's the endless staircase until you get to like where TikTok clock is and all of that stuff. That was the area that we just could not get to. We were just stuck on the I guess that would be the second floor. So yeah, not the third floor. But yeah, we were just kind of stuck, and eventually, I remember my dad, I think, was at a Barnes and Noble, and he saw that they were selling strategy guides, and so he was like, "Hey, let's buy the strategy guide." So we bought it, and we started learning more about the game together, kind of talking about it and playing through it, and just really enjoying ourselves. Um, and probably my most vivid memory of actually playing the game together was when we finally beat it, because my dad was very strategic. He was like, "All right, this is going to be the last Bowser fight. Let's see what we do." And he and I were reading the strategy guide together. Okay, we should go here. We should go do that, because we're looking at the little maps that they had. And it took us forever to finally get to Bowser. And my dad had read ahead a little bit, and he was like, "All right, so when Bowser is going to attack after we hit him twice with the bombs, the floor is going to drop out and it's going to form the shape of a star. So we got to be ready for that." because before it was just you threw Bowser into one bomb and he died and that was it. It was kind of anticlimactic now that I think about it. If I would have, nowadays made a suggestion to Nintendo on the Bowser boss fights, it's interesting that the first time you fight him, you blow him up with one bomb. Makes sense. It's a tutorial. It's the first time you're getting to know Bowser. The second time, though, you should have had to throw him into like two bombs. And then the third would have been the way that it is in the game, which is three. That way there would have been this elevation of challenge rather than just being like, okay, 1-1-3, that massive jump. But anyway, I digress. Um, you know, I remember we were playing and we just kept dying over and over and over again to Bowser. And we were just like, all right, man, let's give this one more shot. We'll give it one more shot for the day. We'll see what happens. And it was mid-afternoon and the sun was kind of coming in and we're playing and we're playing and we're playing and I'm actually controlling. And the floor drops out and I grab Bowser, and when the floor drops out, because it's shaped like a star, it's some of the bombs are like kind of far away or very far away. And so finally I grabbed him and I was like, all right, I'm going for that one. I'm going for the closest one. And I just threw him as hard as I could and he landed. And my dad just yelled. He was like, yes, you got him. Like, and just like, because we were like, oh, we just beat the game. And if you remember at the end of the game, after the dialogue thing comes out, he kind of like disintegrates and like flies away. And Mario starts to hop on his own and do flips and fly off into the sky. Well, we didn't know that was going to happen. So so my dad, being super super cautious, was like, "What are you doing? Are you doing that? What are you doing?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. The controller's on the ground." I was like, "I don't want to touch it because I don't want to actually fall off the world and have to do that all over again." And so he was freaking out. And then eventually, of course, Mario gets back to the castle. He gives back the Power Star, and Peach comes out, and thank you, Mario, and the Power Stars are restored to the castle, and all that stuff. And then the music starts, that incredible Koji Kondo music, and we just sat there, we just watched, all of the worlds that we had been through. We're listening to this great music. Mario and Peach and the Toads are waving goodbye. Thank you so much for playing my game. And my dad and I just, it was a perfect gaming moment. It was funny, it was stressful, it was challenging, but it was also fun, and it was just ultimately extremely rewarding. And I believe to this day, if you were to ask my father, what is your favorite video game of all time? He's going to go, oh, the Mario 64, man. That was a life-changing thing. Because for him, I'm sure it blew his mind. For me, I was a young kid, and I think kids are less wowed by the current technology of the time because, right, they don't have a lot of time perspective on it. But for my dad, like he watched it go from the Super Nintendo to the 64. And for him, that just was like, whoa, look at that. So he really was fascinated with it, and like in the artistry of it, he just was like, this is incredible. Like, I just can't believe someone could make this. And so that was honestly, some of those memories were some of my favorite memories of the of Mario 64, was that specific moment of beating the game with my dad and just experiencing the wave of different emotions. Let's see, the next game I wanted to briefly talk about was Super Mario Sunshine. This is a game I am very protective over. I will defend this game to the end of time. I know that a lot of people hate on it. It's cool to hate on it. It's actually, if you make fun of Super Mario Sunshine, you're not being controversial at all. I can see the flaws in it, but I love it. I kind of love the flaws, actually. I like how different it is. It's so bizarre and just different, and the tone of it is just so exact. I love those games where when you play them, they feel like nothing else. Like if someone told you, "Hey, I really loved Super Mario Sunshine. What's a game that's exactly like that. That's, like, very, very similar. I don't know what I would tell you. I have no idea. There's nothing really that's exactly like that game that I could recommend to you, you know? It's hard to, I don't know. That would be a hard one. But I love the summer vibes. I love the feeling of it. I love Delfino Plaza. You know, I love all of the levels with the exception of probably one. There's maybe one that's like kind of 50-50 for me. But I don't know. But anyway, the memory that I have of Super Mario Sunshine was this. Um, at the time, my parents had split up, and my father actually he spent quite a bit of time living out of an apartment because he was trying to figure out kind of where he was going to go and what he was going to do. He ended up just deciding to stay in town because he loved his job, he loved the community, and I think and I was of course there. So he ended up buying a house few years later, and that very first summer that we moved into that house, this Mario Sunshine was coming out, so whatever they called it. And I had got a GameCube around the launch window for that. And that was actually the first console that I ever bought with my own money. But he and I hung out all summer because he was a teacher at the time, and I was in middle school. And so all summer long was just he and I hanging out, just doing whatever we wanted, just chilling, like no big deal, no stress, no problems. So Mario Sunshine, I remember, was coming out in late August, and I was pretty devastated by that. It came out close to my birthday, which was great for my birthday, but my birthday was like, a week or 2 weeks into the new school year, and you wanna play Mario Sunshine all summer long. It's a summer game. Like, I wanna have all this free time to play this game and enjoy it. So I was kinda bummed by that I had to wait until, you know, the school year started. But I will say that there was a Kmart down the street, which when Kmart still existed, uh, there's a Kmart down the street that had a giant GameCube kiosk, and they had on that kiosk a demo for Super Mario Sunshine. So whenever I was bored at my dad's house, or there was really nothing I wanted to do, and I just was kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna go for a walk and just go play some Mario Sunshine. And so I did. I think I walked over there. I must have walked over there between 7 to 10 times and just played the demo over and over and over and over. And the demo that I had at that Kmart was the first boss battle with Petey Piranha when he's on top of the windmill, and you got to fight him. You got to shoot the water into his mouth and then stomp on him. Uh, that was the only level you could play. But I just loved it so much, like the music and the tropical vibes and everything like that. Like there was no Delfino Plaza. You couldn't just wander around aimlessly. You just had that one level, that one mission. That was it. And I just played it 1,000 times. I loved it so much. I was like, please give me this whole game, dude. I am ready for this. Like, come on. And then, of course, eventually the game was released. I actually had a buddy in my class who felt the same way as me. So that was really exciting because we were kind of chatting. And I remember one time he was like, oh, what are you going to do, next weekend? Or what are you going to do this weekend or whatever? And I was like, dude, Mario Sunshine's coming out. Like, I cannot wait. And he was like, dude, I'm doing the same thing. I'm getting that game as soon as possible. I was like, we were so excited. And I told him about the demo at Kmart. And he was like, dude, I played a demo someplace else. I only got to play it once. How many times did you play it? And I told him, I was like, well, over the summer, I just would walk over there whenever I had free time. And he was like, oh man, that super lucky. Super lucky. He's like, I'd have done the same thing. So when I look back at Mario Sunshine, I remember playing it because that's another one that I also did play with my dad. He was less interested in that because by that time he was getting older and the games were getting a little bit more frustrating, a little bit more complex, and I think he was starting to kind of tap out. The 64 was really the last time that he really played a lot of that because sometimes I would get him on the GameCube, and he would just he would just be like, why don't we just play some why don't we play some Smash Brothers on the 64? Because he liked Smash. He played it. His main, by the way, was Samus. He always played as Samus, and yeah, he just didn't really after the 64. He was just kind of done. I think he was just like he went all in on the 64, and then that was enough for him. But that's my memory of Sunshine. I will always remember that demo at that demo kiosk at Kmart. That's a big part of my nostalgia and memory for Mario Sunshine. And then moving on, of course, to Super Mario Galaxy. That was one that was kind of I actually bought that on a whim because at the time I was not super into Nintendo. I wanted a Wii, and I remember I that was one of the things that I kind of was like, "Hey, for Christmas, I kind of want to get a Wii," you know. And everybody was freaking out about it. Everybody loved Wii Sports, and I was like, I don't really care about that. What I care about is the fact that they have announced Super Smash Bros. Brawl. That's coming out. That was the only reason that I jumped on getting a Wii. Because before that, I was just kind of like, well, that's fine. But I played so much of Smash 64. I played so much of Melee. Melee was like my number one played game on the GameCube, probably. Uh, so I wanted Brawl. I was like, I gotta play the next one, and so I secured a a Wii console before the release because I was like, I got to make sure I've been able to play it, you know, launch weekend. I got to touch this. I got to play this thing. I got to get my hands on it. But I had the Wii, and I didn't get any games with it because it came with Wii Sports, and I was like, this is kind of cute. This is kind of fun. I'm enjoying it well enough. But Smash was still a couple of months away, and I had this brand new Nintendo console. What am I going to do with this thing? And the only thing that was really out that caught my eye was Mario Galaxy. And I was like, well, I loved 64. I loved Sunshine. Maybe I'll give this Galaxy thing a try. Maybe I'll go pick this up. And I remember very, very vividly, I walked to, I didn't walk, sorry. I walked into, my parents obviously had to drive me there, but I walked into my local Blockbuster and was looking around at some of the games to rent, and they did not have any copies of Super Mario Galaxy. There were none there. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I was just, but they were selling it. They had for sale copies. And I was like, well, I'll just rent something, right? I'll save my money. I'll just rent something. And I don't know what came over me, but I was like standing, looking at the Wii games for sale, just looking at Mario Galaxy. And I was like, you know what? Smash Brothers is not coming out for a while. I'll have enough time to safely save up for that game again. I don't need to worry about setting this money aside. So I just splurged and just kind of bought it on the spot. And I am so glad that I did. I played that game pretty consistently for about a month or two, until I beat it. And I really wanted to take my time with it because, at least when you're younger, time moves a lot slower. So to me, it was like, man, it's been forever since Sunshine came out. Who knows when the next big Mario will come out? So I just need to kind of savor this and enjoy it and go through it slowly. And I did, and it was fantastic. I love the story with Rosalina. I thought her whole backstory was fascinating and beautiful, and I love the story, and I love the music that accompanied that little storybook montage that they would tell you, piece by piece. It was just perfect. I just loved it. Really always very happy that I bought that, and ever since then, whenever a brand new Mario game is coming out, I don't second guess it. I don't say, well, I'll save my money. Don't worry about it. It's like, no, 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 no. Just grab it. Just buy it. You won't be disappointed. And I definitely was not with Galaxy. Like I said, I can remember standing in that Blockbuster. I got it in my hand. They only had like 2 or 3 copies, and I'm just debating. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. Just pull the trigger. Just jump in, full feet, like no questions. The next Mario game that I want to talk about is Super Mario Odyssey. So this is the 4th one. So there's one more to talk about after Odyssey. But Odyssey was an interesting one. That one kind of was a little bizarre. So at the time, I was in the United States Air Force, and I was stationed at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam. And I was actually, I had scheduled a Halloween visit home. Sometimes I'd go home at Christmas, sometimes I'd go home at Halloween, but I always went home in the colder months because in Hawaii there ain't no cold months. You're never going to be cold. It's if you're At least for me personally, if I'm walking around in like jeans and a long sleeve t-shirt or a button up t-shirt and I'm walking around outside, I'm sweating. It is gonna be hot, right? Uh, so I really enjoyed going home, especially during the Halloween months. It's like autumn and the leaves have fallen. It's beautiful outside and Halloween decorations are up. Like it's great to really see that. I didn't see a lot of that on Oahu, so I kind of I missed that side of the mainland, like going back home. And I had bought every single Nintendo Switch like published title in that first year of the Switch's release, and Mario Odyssey was no exception. I had that thing pre-ordered, I was ready to go, but there was a problem. I had bought my ticket to fly home because this game came out on a Friday. I bought my ticket to go home on a Friday. And I kind of realized that. I was like, uh-oh. Like, they're probably going to do a midnight release for this game, but it's not guaranteed. They haven't said anything about it. And the cool thing about living on Oahu or in Hawaii in general is that they have to match the mainland's Eastern time. So whatever that time drops on the mainland, they can sell it to you. So, like for instance, when Animal Crossing New Horizons came out, I went to my GameStop just outside of the base, and they sold me my pre-order at 6 p.m. that afternoon. So I just went home and played it all night. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is fantastic. Like, this is great. That was one of the coolest things. Is like, hey, I just get these games early. Now, sometimes they didn't. With the Nintendo Switch console itself, it had to be midnight local time. So certain really big deal things had to be midnight local time. But pretty much every single game release from Nintendo that I got pre-ordered wise was in the afternoon. So as soon as I realized this, because this is about a week until my flight, I kind of freaked a little bit and I called the GameStop and I was like, hey, so I've actually got a flight out on the same day for the release as Odyssey. And I really would love to have Odyssey on the plane. I mean, talk about perfect timing, right? Like you go like I could get that game, go to the airport and play it on the plane. I mean, it's a 5-hour flight to Seattle, and then I'm gonna connect from Seattle to Chicago, and then Chicago to Louisville. It's like I have all this time. It would be awesome to play Mario Odyssey. And I was like, "Are you doing midnights? Like, are you gonna sell it at 6 p.m. like normal?" Because my flight I think was like at like 8:30 or something like that, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And the guy was like, "It hasn't been decided yet. We usually give you guys a call when we know if we're going to do that." And that's true. I remembered that. I was like, yeah, they usually do call me before they decide. He was like, we probably will, right? But it's once again, it's never guaranteed. I was like, all right, well, hopefully you guys do. I appreciate you. We'll see what happens. And sure enough, oh, I think it was about 5 days, like the Monday beforehand, they made the decision. And they called me. They were like, hey, you can come pick up your pre-order. And I was like, what time can I pick it up? They were like, you can pick it up at I think it was at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, depending on, daylight savings on the mainland, because Hawaii doesn't have daylight savings. So it was always tough to kind of figure that out. It's like, okay, what are you guys doing here? Is it this time? Is it? But they said I can come pick it up. And I was like, cool. So I called an Uber. They picked me up at my place. And I just had the Uber just go to GameStop. And then that was the end of the ride. I picked up my copy of the game, said thank you very much, called another Uber, went down the street, which this GameStop is super close. All of this stuff is extremely close on Oahu. Like, Hickam shares a flight line with the airport. It's basically the same thing. And then the GameStop is just right outside of the base on what we used to call Hamburger Hill. I don't know if they still call it that or not, but it's where all the fast food chains and there's a Starbucks and I almost said Kung Fu Panda. I almost said Kung Fu Panda. Panda Express. There's a bunch of little fast food things there, and there was like a GNC and a bunch of those kind of shops, and GameStop was one of them. And so I was able to go swing by, pick it up, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, this is perfect. I'm waiting to get on the plane. Sun's going down. I've got brand new Mario Odyssey in there. and things are just solid. I played the whole way there. I played it a little bit. Oh, I lied to you. I did not land in Seattle. I flew from uh, Honolulu to Atlanta, I think. Did it go to Atlanta? I remember playing it in the Atlanta airport. So I don't know if I landed in Seattle and then Atlanta and then Louisville. That's probably what I did. I probably went to Seattle because I usually try to go out of Seattle. That's usually the way I try to go. So Seattle to Atlanta to Louisville. I just remember playing that thing the whole time, man. It was fantastic, and I played it while I was like in town, and like, I'm super nostalgic for that game just because of that trip and just that season and the fall weather, and then like it's also kind of tied into my military time. There's a lot of nostalgic stuff in that game for me because of where I was geographically and emotionally in life at the time. So it was really fantastic. I'm pretty nostalgic for Mario Odyssey. And then the final game that I wanted to discuss in this special Mario Day spectacular is Super Mario 3D World. So with Super Mario 3D World, actually, this is going to be an odd, kind of a strange uh, memory because it is not the memory that I had when the game came out on the Wii U. Because I'm sure you're kind of thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute. You jump from Galaxy to Odyssey and then back to 3D World. And it's like, no, 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 no. I had 3D World on the Wii U, and I really didn't like it. I was kind of disappointed by it, to be honest with you. It just, to go from the Galaxy world, or the Galaxy sort of theme and idea into the 3D world area it felt like just a big downgrade. It didn't feel as inventive and as like jaw-dropping as a Galaxy. And so I was after Galaxy, you're thinking the next one's going to be huge, and it just wasn't. But then they re-released it for the Switch. And by that point, I had played and beaten Odyssey. I had enjoyed a lot of that kind of stuff. They actually at that point had already re-released Sunshine in 64 on the Switch as well in that little limited time thing that they did. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick this up again. I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to play it again, even though I really didn't like it too much the first time. And I think releasing it after Odyssey really helped it for me. They also made a few like little changes to it, like you could run faster in the new version. Plus there was this really cool open world Bowser's Fury section that I played a lot of, which I really hope that that's going to be in the next mainline Mario game for the Switch too. An open world Mario game like Bowser's Fury would be incredible. Especially if it's not water, if it's like actually like open land, you can just walk around. Oh man, that would just be killer. I would love that. But anyway, I remember picking up the game. I picked it up at Target. I picked it up actually at the Ala Moana Target, if for those of you listening out in Hawaii. And what was really cool about it, and I didn't know this at the time, they were selling it with like a pre-order bonus or like an early buy bonus where you get this like Cat Mario like actually like metal water bottle, and it had all four of the characters wrapped around it. So there was like a Mario and a Toad and a Peach and a Luigi, and it was just like I was so excited because I'm a cat guy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I do love cats, and I just was like, that's killer. That sweetens the deal even more because I was like 50-50 about buying it, to begin with, and then I was like, yeah, I'll just do it. Just no regrets, right? And then when they gave me that, I was like, okay, yeah, you've already won me over here with the freebie. But popped it into the Switch, played it, loved it to death, and I was like, you know what? I misjudged this game. This is a game that I thought I had it pegged. I thought I knew, this is a lesser product. This is not as good as the other titles. This is the weakest of the bunch. And now I've done a 180. I'm like, no. This is great. This isn't super inventive. This isn't, reinventing the wheel here or doing anything totally brand new that we've never seen before. But it's new enough and it's fun and it's like a cozy, nice, safe Mario game, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's really not, Mario is just, and I guess to sort of start to wrap it up, is that Mario is just, it's just at the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun. I don't think we should come at it with like, what we think the next game should be, or, we shouldn't predetermine what these artists are going to do with this character or this intellectual property. Mario is just about having fun, just about having a good time. And sometimes that's multiplayer, sometimes it's by yourself, sometimes that's online in the case of Mario Maker. But we've all got our favorites and we've all got our least favorites. But I love this franchise. This franchise is what introduced me to video games in the first place. And so whether or not, I want to admit it, I'm indebted to the Mario team and Nintendo for for ushering me into this world of gaming, and to, being basically the gateway game to get me into this art form. And I just, just wanted to take a moment to thank the talented people there down the street from me right now in Kyoto that continue to make magic for all of us, regardless of where we are in the world. And I just, I don't know, really appreciate that team. Really appreciate, Mr. Miyamoto and all the work they do out there. So, I don't know. Hope you guys have a happy Mario Day. Pop in one of your old favorite games. Remember the old times. Maybe reach out to a friend you used to play with, and take care of each other out there. You guys have a good one. Bye.